We have a special guest today, Nicole from Brigham Interiors. Yay! You guys have some questions?
Nicole, we were wondering if you have things that you see frequently when you go into houses that are, every time you see it, you're like, oh, why'd you do that? Like updates people do or things like that.
Yes. I'll start small. Things that are really repetitive for me are like in the washroom. I kind of have this like checklist items. It's the cover to the toilet down, any brushes, plungers, open garbage around that area, out of sight, bath mats, out of sight, used towels and washcloths and
we see that
products.
a lot. Like,
yeah,
people love their little decorative towels, and
yes.
sometimes they look pretty in person, but not so much in pictures. So
that's
always
it.
our thing.
Yeah,
like
photos are a completely different story too. So you're sort of, and then like big things that you're like, oh, I wish you'd call me sooner. Is just like painting with paint they had, or something that's like a kind of a missed opportunity when you think like, when you are doing this for this purpose, kind of thinking outside of the box of what you would normally do, or ask someone like your realtor or their stager.
I get a lot of people who say, oh, we're thinking about selling next year. That is the time to call your realtor or your home decor person.
Yep.
Officially, you're an interior.
I say designer because it is something that I offer is interior design and drawing. My course was interior decorating and design. I'm not an architectural designer, which is now like a distinction for anyone who can do plans by code or drawings for blueprints and things like that. So I just say designer to make it easy.
Yeah.
We often go in houses, and you probably see this. So you're talking about the paint, and they will have said, oh, we're going to have you in next week. We're just finishing painting, and your like fingers are crossed that they haven't painted the same color they had 9 years ago, right? And a lot of times you'll see that. It's like, it's all just painted. And you'll be like, okay, you know.
Yeah. And they're super keen, and that's cool. And a fresh coat of paint never hurts. So, you know, it's the best case of a worst case. But another one is doing too many things themselves that really should be done professionally, or at least semi-professionally, just because you're under scrutiny when you're listed. You guys know better than anyone. And like cabinets painting themselves, and like sometimes with the different chalk paints and things where you're like, these are now kind of destroyed. Like you're either gonna have over or, you know, because you'll see that right away going in, like, someone did this themselves and it's not a good quality paint or whatever the case. So. And that's a big deal. Like that takes a lot of a person's time and resources. So
They even have that like saying in real estate, the $10,000 gallon of paint.
That's my saying.
good one.
I don't know that.
Oh, really? I thought that was a saying. Maybe you just said it so much it's a saying in my head.
It's a saying in your head.
It's so true, though. A good coat of paint can make you money.
Yeah.
A bad coat of paint maybe can go the opposite way. But
Yeah,
I
like
don't know
there's a
about
lot
that.
of houses that have been really nice houses, and then they've had a brightly colored kitchen, and people just like, no, I don't want to look at that house. Look at that kitchen. Like, it's not the kitchen, it's the color. You can change that.
I think we're so, what's the word? Like we've adapted so much to seeing beautiful photos constantly now, and we're just not
Pinterest
able to see
worthy.
past. Yeah. We can't see past. I say we, the
I know
royal
what you
we.
mean.
Yeah. You know, people can't see past a bright paint color or even furniture arrangement. Like the furniture's not staying, but it's so important that it be set up in a way that you can get around the space physically when you're there and see that you can from the photos, which, you know, that's the first place people are looking at these listings, and they're just going to say yes or no right away, like when they look through the photos. So I think they're
What's
key.
the thing that you hate to see when you go into a house? Like you're like, oh, you're bringing staging in.
Yeah. Oh, once we're doing an installation.
Maybe you haven't even like, they sent you some pictures. We want you to bring some staging in.
Filth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That for me is number one. I'm just thinking like that should be so high on your list, especially when listing, but even kind of day to day, sometimes you're like,
Do you feel like sometimes realtors are afraid to have that hard conversation?
Yeah, I think so, because you want to be on your vendor's team, right? You're representing them. So I think for you to, you know, this doesn't look great or that doesn't look great, then they might think you don't have confidence in their listing. So I think bringing in a third party, kind of like you get to pass that buck a little bit. And then I've also been brought in specifically to tell you the hard things and go over these things with you. So they're like a little more prepared for it.
It's so true. Sometimes you'll go into a beautiful home, and if it's dirty, you're like, oh, well, they don't even take care of it. But if somebody just did a super deep clean beforehand, it might look like they always did that, always took care of it.
It's crazy the things that we don't even realize how much they influence our like impressions of a space. Like people who have dated furniture or just a different style from what their target buyer has, it all can be a deterrent, even if the house itself is actually perfectly fine.
I know, I agree. And a lot of times, like, you know, someone maybe from their starter home, they're going to sell, and they might have a lot of hand-me-down furniture, some mismatched stuff, because they're starting out, right? And they don't want to maybe invest before they move to the second or third home. But it's that first impression that you get where you're like, oh, this is just a hodgepodge, and like you just can't see past it sometimes. Some people can, so it's makes a big difference.
So how many, like, are you finding that in this seller's market you're still staging as much as you were, or do you find that just a little bit less?
Less installations, more consultations at this time because of the timelines for people. People are very eager to get on this hot market and take advantage of being in a good position as a seller. So we're in for the consultation, and a lot of times, even if staging would be an optimal choice for them, time just doesn't really allow for it. So at this point,
we're finding that with some of our listings right now. It's like, oh, this house could benefit from a little bit of staging, but
they want to move now.
Yeah, like unless you brought it with you to the consultation.
Yeah.
It's like a question because photos are tomorrow. It's crazy. I had someone Saturday email and be like, so the stuff you talked about, rental, this and that, like our photos are Monday afternoon, do you think? And I'm like,
I don't think I can do that.
I don't think I can pull that off. You know, and they were just wanting to take advantage of the advice, but it just really wasn't realistic for the timeline, and maybe next time, or they probably won't need it anyhow because things are moving so quickly. So
if somebody's doing a full, like I'd say a full installation, they've got furniture, but you're bringing a lot of accessories. Do you find that takes like a day to 2 days to do, or typically?
Without very much. Just the accessories and decor would be probably a day's project. An unfurnished home might be 2, because we'd probably do the furniture install the first day and then fill in with decor and styling the next day.
And oftentimes, even if you're not bringing furniture in, you're helping, because you've come and helped us a lot. You rearrange furniture, like you're really doing it all.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, a lot of times you can do so much with what the client already has. A lot of people have actually too much in their spaces. So just editing what they already have, arranging it in a more appealing manner makes a huge difference. And so many times they're like, I never thought of this. Or like some even are like, we should just stay now that
It's like love it or list it.
Yeah, like I moved your sofa to the left 6 inches. They're like, oh my God.
Well, that's great. We have found that so many times where people have said to us, because I mean, we do also have our own staging stuff, which we use more for soft staging. We don't do the full install like you do. But people will say, oh, well, you really like our house now. Or we should have, like, we had a client that you and I staged together. It was quite a big house. And then she used you afterwards for the next house. Because she realized how much she'd like.
Yeah, to have it decorated. Because sometimes, like, well, especially when you invest in the bigger pieces, rugs, furniture, etc. You get a little more cautious with the decor stuff, or you think, oh, I don't need that, like I just bought a sofa, right? But those touches I find just warm it right up, and then it gets to reflect your personality, which I think is so important for your home. So
we switched the couch in our house a week or 2 weeks ago.
It's so much brighter.
It's so much brighter. Like I had a dark couch before, and it's a nice couch. We are growing. Our couch grew, and my husband and I have been like, it's so much nicer in here. It's so much brighter. Like, everyone loves it. It's one couch. It's nothing else in the room has changed but the
incredible.
couch.
Or like adding a rug to a space that's kind of feeling vast and a little disconnected.
Yeah.
One rug, furniture feet on it, done. And people are just like, what is this new room?
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I like you say that you have your list of stuff to get out of the way, pet beds and toothbrushes and
Litter boxes.
Yeah, that's a big one. We talked about pets, I think, in an episode, didn't we already?
Yeah, the one that was just myself and you.
Oh, right, yeah.
But because they hold the smell sometimes too. That's less like looking, but when you walk in and you're like, what is that?
I had one once where their half unfinished basement was all litter boxes.
Ooh.
There were 9.
Ew.
How many cats?
I think like 4.
What?
But it was almost like they just gave them more boxes instead of like cleaning them out or doing anything with them. It was so bad. And it was from the front door, you were like, something's happened with little dog. And then by the time you made it downstairs, you're like, oh, I wish I kept my shoes on. I have that so many times.
I went to a showing last year, and the other realtor told you were like, oh, Hannah's going to this, and she was like, tell Hannah to bring a change of socks. And
I've thrown
it
out more
was
socks than
like dog hair and gravel.
I've had to completely like derobe at the front door of my own house when I get back.
You're like, I don't want the smell coming in
No,
my
and I don't want to like track anything into. And my house is not like pristine by any means. Like we're shoes on in the house, do whatever, but like there's a line.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have.
Have thrown,
That's
yeah,
it.
like
Yes.
you said, thrown out a lot of
Kids
socks.
And it's like, it's not that stuff doesn't exist. I'm not unrealistic. I don't think it's just that like when it's not looked after for ages or
I mean,
it's just,
I can't
adds up.
imagine if I don't sweep under my dinner table like once a day. One day, and it looks like I haven't swept under my dinner table for 2 weeks with small children.
right. Right. That's the way.
That's a disadvantage of not having a dog.
I know.
And not having a rug.
That'd be a very messy rug. for
Yes.
something like that.
Not realistic.
Insert ruggable commercial here.
Cut to it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so if you were to pick 3 things that you would tell people to do before
You
Yeah.
came.
If the
Before
list
you
was
came?
3, before I even came to see,
Yeah.
I think to have a good think about what they can live without for the process. Think about where they'll put what they want to keep for their next spot, and have a plan for that. And just
Deep clean?
be ready for the deep clean. Yeah. Maybe not to have that done before I get there. Like I don't mind if it's not deep clean for me, but just to have that on their radar as something. And then that way, because a lot of people so it's a sensitive thing for people, right? To tell them to put away their own stuff or where to put their own stuff. So you always kind of like tread lightly and get to know them a bit before you just start essentially kind of bashing the way they live their lives, you know? So it's tactile. And so you ask, like, you know, what is your situation for putting yourself stuff elsewhere? And some don't have like a support system or a storage locker. Like those things all cost money and time. And some people are just kind of up against it, or their garage is already so full. They don't have the means or the capacity to get junk taken out or whatever. So even putting them in touch with people who can help them remove just debris and trash and things, or people who can help them organize their lives, and stuff like that. Cleaners that can come and do the deep clean, and leave some supplies behind maybe would be great. But, you know, everyone lives a different life and has a different situation that you also have to kind of like have in the back of your mind when you're asking them to do these things, even though the things you're asking them to do are for their benefit. But it can still be really abrupt for them depending on their situation.
Yeah, I think one of the things about having a list for clients, which we do, that they can look at the suggestions that we have, which makes them generic and for everybody, and not like, hey,
Yes.
you really need to clean
you
it.
over there.
It doesn't
Like,
feel as targeted. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not like
yes.
you must tidy your home.
yeah.
I like, not like I like that I had to do this, but I feel less like I'm insulting someone, because when I listed my house, we had to rent a storage locker
Yes.
and we filled it, and my house looked so much better. Some of it, we were like, man, where is that thing? Oh, it's in the storage locker. But it also makes you realize how much you can live without.
Yeah. Makes you want to set fire to the storage locker and never look back. Because if you're living without it, you know.
Yeah, I even had like a box of makeup, and I was like, oh, this is my nice, really nice, not my day-to-day. Like, I'll put it in the storage locker just while we're showing so that there's less in the bathroom. I threw that out. Like 6 months later. I was like, I never went in there again. Clearly everything, besides the fact that it's probably bad, I didn't need it.
Yeah. It's good. And it's good for like the energy of the home and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Because you can feel like, not to get all woohoo on you, but like you can feel stagnant energy when you come into someone's home. And you can, I don't know about you guys, but you sense what's happening in there on a whole nother level. And I think the idea too is just to give that sense of opportunity to your buyers, and that feeling that they could get some house pride with this home and make it their own. So you kind of have to just shoo away all of whatever that is for these people, or help them remove that for the next people, for the potential buyers.
I like that perspective a lot. I'm definitely a believer that like the space you're in is reflective of your own like mental state sometimes. So if I'm having a bad day, it means I need to clean things up a little bit, and it helps. So I can see that being like a long-term thing as well.
Yeah, and on that bigger scale where the whole home, like, and you know, on a maintenance thing too, like things can get away from you if you're new family starting out, and you know, you're in over your head no matter how prepared you are for your first and second child, third child. You just like, it gets you every time. And things that you started and you're like, oh, well, we'll do that on mat leave. Like, no, that's not a thing. You don't do things on your mat leave.
Georgia's rooms, my youngest, she just turned 10 months. Her wallpaper only arrived last month. And we've been planning it since before she was born. It's still not up. So.
Whereas Amelia's room was like, boom, here you go.
Yeah. Well, Amelia was like.
That was still like Hannah was in the hospital.
Yeah, and you guys were
recovering,
doing
and we
everything.
were like hanging wallpaper and installing
nice.
light fixtures.
Oh my goodness.
Wallpaper, that's coming back.
Oh, I don't even know that it ever took a break. Not at least since like 2000. People have been doing the accent walls, and it's just,
Small
ramping
rooms.
up and
Yeah,
up.
it's ramping up a bit, I
Yeah,
guess.
powder
you were seeing it in
rooms.
powder rooms a lot before.
Mud rooms, a lot of like 2/3 molding with wallpaper for the
Right.
top third. A lot of like entry and stairwell big installations. So yeah, it's happening.
And there's somebody to do your wallpaper.
You know, I should just get Nicole to come do it, and then it won't be sitting on a roll beside the bed.
So that's another thing that you do, right? Like,
Yep. Wallpaper installation. Yep. And I just had a
Blinds,
new
like
girl.
you can see them behind you.
Window treatments. We do custom pillows, and we source decor for not staging as well, to make a person's home highly personalized. And we do drawings for people who are considering a renovation. We can draw the space as we plan it to be, and draw for millwork and things like that. Plan it out.
You helped a client of ours recently with a new build. Just trying to tweak some of the things that they weren't liking. And I think, didn't we end up with that addition because of you?
Yeah, an 8-foot bump out.
Yeah.
So their dining table could fit.
Nice.
And it was a standard dining table too. It was just sort of like the space really wasn't there for it. So
Yeah. I guess a lot of the stuff with decor and design is thinking ahead. You're going to move in 2 years. Call your realtor, your decorator now, so that you're, if you are going to paint, or if you are going to renovate something, a worthwhile renovation,
Yes.
or is it something that, oops, you probably shouldn't have put that money in there.
yeah. And that's a lot of the, sorry, Hannah.
No, go
that's a
ahead.
lot of the staging consultation is, I kind of ask them, I say, okay, usually we have you tour me through or whatever. I say to them, let me know anything you plan on doing. so that I'm not repeating something you already know. Or maybe I could save you doing it if it might not be something that's like such a high priority or whatever, in my opinion, of course. But yeah, and sometimes people are the opposite, and they're going to do way more than really is necessary for their listings, right?
Yeah, we've seen that too,
Yeah.
for sure.
And you're like, no need, sign on the lawn, done.
I think even, like, obviously for us, the three of us in particular, and you do staging, we're thinking about when people are going to sell. Even if something is your forever home, it's still a good idea
Yeah.
to get you or somebody who's doing design and decor in, because there are things you don't think about, right? And you're like, oh, I never, like, that never occurred to me. So whether you make it better for them or situations change, you may think that's your forever home. And so you're going to do this quirky thing because you love it. And then 2-3 years down the road, even 10, you go to sell it. And every single person who sees that home is like, when did they do that?
Yeah.
We've sold homes before that people are like, this is my forever home. I'm never leaving. And they're
That's
like,
5 to 7 years, by the way, your forever home. 5 to 7 years.
And then they're like, nobody, not that nobody likes it, but it makes it so unique that it really narrows your field of buyers.
How many years have you been living in Fredericton, Hannah?
Since I moved back from Vietnam, or
Well, just since you've been in Fredericton. So, like, how many houses have you had?
15 years, 16 years,
I thought you were saying 15.
15 houses. And 3 of those I lived abroad. Let's see, I had thinking like Carlisle, St. Mary's.
Well, that's just places you live, but I mean houses that you've owned
Oh,
since you.
that like Tom and I?
Yeah.
3.
3, right? And how many years have you been together?
12.
Right. So,
Wow.
And
That's a
my
lot.
husband hates moving.
He's not alone.
yeah, so that's
like, we're never
what I'm
moving.
saying, and is like you're the perfect example of the forever home.
This one is my forever home, okay? I told Nicole that earlier. I was like, we're never moving.
You haven't hit the 5 to 7 year mark yet.
Your kids are still just this big.
Yeah, you haven't been in a home for 5 years yet. So
Ever. Not.
But it's
Nothing
so good
goes
to
a
move
child.
though too, because you do get to go through everything. You do get to change it up, and I think that's really good for a family, you know, so long as that all the other factors are in line for this family as well. But it's a good refresh of your belongings, of your space.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I should just pretend to move. I should just like, we're going to move out of our house for
Get the
2
storage
months.
locker again,
Yeah, get
fill
the
it up,
storage
light it
locker,
on
fill
fire.
it, get rid of stuff. That playroom.
So my question is, when you're getting ready to give somebody some advice, or you're there giving some advice, and you have a third party that's involved or involved themselves, and you're getting some opposition, you know, for us, it's sometimes like family members or friends giving their opinion on things that
Yes.
throws you off.
Uninvited parties.
Yes.
Yes, that happens. And and sometimes you can't tell if the person who is meant to be receiving your advice values this uninvited advice or not.
Right.
So you don't want to do the wide-eyed to them like this guy and then actually be on the same page as them, or, you know, really not, whatever the word is, they welcome this other person's advice. So yeah, you just kind of have to like sense out, you know, if they're seeming a little frustrated themselves or exasperated over this uninvited advice. You can be like, when you do get them around a corner or something, be like, you know, don't worry about it. We'll just have in the notes what we've agreed upon, if you can get their ear for a minute. If not, the notes are my, saving grace so many times, because sometimes it's the client themselves who's blocking their own process or progress on it. You know, they're like, oh, I hate this room, but I'm going to keep everything in it exactly the way it is. It's like, well, we can't fix it unless we change some things, right? So that's an extreme case. So then I'll say, okay, you know, that's fine, because in person they might be more nervous, or they might be tired, or, you know, you don't really know what you're walking into every time. So I can say, okay, fine, we can kind of skim past, but I'll still make my notes as if I'm giving the advice, and I email it, and it's on paper. They can take it or leave it. And then I always CC the realtor, so you know what their homework was and that I've covered it, and they're still in the driver's seat whether they do something or not. But
Is there like a trend to the things you notice people being less receptive to, like certain, I don't know, styles or pieces or advice?
So sometimes people are very protective of their heirloom stuff. Sometimes people are really protective of their stuff their kids have grown out of or stopped using, that it's like they don't want to let go of that age or stage. So they have this like mental block against removing whatever from the, even if it's temporary. That's what I just keep saying, like, yep, just for the process or just for the photos, just to kind of keep reminding them, like, this isn't going to end up in some place you're never going to get to see it again.
Landfill.
It's just, yes, yeah, it might, if you let me. But yeah, but just letting them know that it's still theirs, they're still in control, but that this is just, in our experience, the best way to go about it. And
Yeah. And it definitely comes back to like my advice to people all the time when they're not seeming receptive to our suggestions is to say, like, this isn't because what you have is bad. It's because you're selling your house because it doesn't suit your needs anymore. You're trying to market to the people who will be suited to your house, and their style is different than yours. Because if your style hadn't changed, you would still want to be in this house.
That's right.
But there's a reason that you don't want to be.
Yeah, it's just all growth, and
Yeah.
it's a good thing. And I think, like, also on that same note, like, you know, when people start storing stuff above their cabinets, like on tops of the upper cabinets, and then like the closet down the hall has all the walks, and you know, just like they're out of kitchen storage is all that reads. So when you suggest, you know, let's store that offsite or box it up and put it in the garage, they're just like, well, it fits in there and it's behind a door. Why? But it's because when someone comes through and opens this closet door and sees all the rest of your kitchen stuff, they're going to think immediately that the kitchen's too small for them because you've outgrown it. They may not, but you have, and that's the first thing they're going to think when they find a walk in the closet.
Yeah, all those doors are being opened. People want to know what space they'll have when they move in.
Yes. Yeah, and I think, like, also cleaning your appliances on the inside as well, and like your drawers that get crummy, you know, near the toaster, underneath the sink, like those spots that can be overlooked when you're just maybe doing your day-to-day cleaning, but people check those spots out, and I think when they look good, it gives a good sense of everything being taken care of equally.
We've all got that junk drawer.
Yes.
But
Or
you're gonna
junk drawers.
Or rooms.
Yes.
Some people have whole rooms, like rooms that shall not be named. And I'm like, I'm going to put it on the notes as this, but you still got to clean it up.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna, especially if you're moving out, you're gonna be moving out anyways. Might as well
That's
take care
it.
of that now.
That's what, and I say to them, like, once you get momentum, it's going to feel great. It's just like so daunting to open the door to the room that shall not be named and be affronted with.
Yeah,
But
like-
if you feel that way opening the door and that's your damn stuff, imagine how someone else feels opening that
I
door.
like that, your damn stuff.
It's just like, I don't feel good right now, and I know what I'm stepping into.
Yeah. Although we do sometimes tell people who have that budget and they can't afford to take their stuff off site, pick a room and make it neatly stacked in boxes or
Yeah.
Buyers can be forgiving of like one space being messy as long as the rest of the house is
Yeah, and not even messy, but like
or just like
full.
Yeah.
Yes.
full of stuff.
yeah, if it's full of boxes, you can be like, look, they're getting ready to move.
Yes.
If it's full of junk, you're like, oh, it's an untidy place.
Yes. And the storage rooms, too, are a spot that sometimes it's just the way they're using the space is so inefficient that they're like, oh, I can't put more in here, like, because they just got bikes lying around on the floor or whatever the case, 10 litter boxes, that you're like, well, if you just stack this up and hang this, you've got 10 by 10 room that you can be like putting box goods in or whatever. So yeah, tips and tricks of
Of the trade.
and I always try to kind of put myself in their shoes, like verbally to them, is just be like, I'm glad I'm not doing this in my house. Like, that's kind of my little tagline, just to get them to have their guard down. Because I mean, I really couldn't imagine someone coming in and doing what I do for people to me. I don't love being told what to do, so yeah, I just try to level with them, and once you get their trust, they're just so more apt to actually hear you and know that you're saying this for their best interests, right? Like,
Yeah, I think so. That's true.
They don't think you're just in there to, I don't know, hear yourself talk.
Have you ever staged a haunted house?
We've been in some pretty creepy spots. We had one once that there was a car in the yard with the windows down that had been there all winter like that. Like not even a 10-year-old vehicle, like not a dilapidated vehicle, just windows down all winter long. And like all the baseboard was removed in the house and the fridge hadn't been cleaned out. And it was just like someone picked up and just left.
Ghost
And
town.
it felt very ghosty in there.
And you
like,
staged that?
Yeah, well, I wrote a list of what to do with it.
And then got out of
And
there.
then got out of there. But yeah, it was not good energy in there at all.
Well, yeah, I thought that was great. I think you
See?
had a good time. Not so hard.
No, you guys are so great too. So it's like, it's just a conversation.
I'm keeping that in there.
Gotta get those little compliments where you can.